Before we continue, let me direct the committee secretary to acknowledge our resource persons for this morning. But before that, let me acknowledge the virtual presence of Senator Amy Marcos and Senator Nancy Binay. Comsec.
Good morning, everyone. May we acknowledge the virtual presence of Representative Eduardo Golias, 1st District of Cebu. Mr. Rex Victor Fuentespina, past President, Philippine Orchid Society. Maria Olivia Fuentespina, R&D Director, Fuentespina Orchids founding member. Engineer Armen A. Cuenca, City Local Environment Natural Resources, Cagayan de Oro. Mayor Mercedita Apura, Carcar City, Cebu. Attorney Ryan Oliva. Director Shalimar Hofer Tamano. Ms. Marlene M. Mendoza, Division Chief, Caves, Wetlands and Ecosystems Division, DENR. Mr. Arley J. Adorable, Regional Director, Region 10. Mr. Alvin Alcid, OIC, Deputy Executive Director for Programs and Projects, National Historical Commission of the Philippines. Mr. Al Ryan S. Alejandre, Executive Director, National Commission of Culture and the Arts. From the National Museum of the Philippines, Director Jeremy Barnes. From the Heritage Conservation Society, Mr. Mark Richard Evidente, President. And from the Philippine Orchid Society, Mr. Andres S. Gulamco Jr., Assistant Corporate Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Comsec. Echo. Thank you very much, Comsec. Hold on, may echo po eh.
Pati yung mouse.
Hello, can you hear me, Nancy? All right, thank you. Today we'll be tackling 3 local bills which were brought to the Senate by the House of Representatives. Number 1 is House Bill number 4952, an act declaring the Waling-Waling orchid as the national orchid of the Philippines. And then House Bill number 5644, an act declaring the city of Carcar in the province of Cebu a cultural heritage zone. And then number 3, 5643, an act declaring Cagayan de Oro River as a cultural heritage zone. Kanina umaga po, pinag-iisipan ko kung aling bill po ang umpisahan ho natin. Itong tatlo po ay para sa akin importante. First of all, yung declaring Waling-Waling is sponsored by Congressman Vince Garcia, who's a friend of mine, and we've been colleagues since the 12th Congress, kasama si Senator Amy Marcos. And then in declaring Cagayan de Oro River po naman ay sponsored by Congressman Rufus Rodriguez, who's an idol of mine. Every time nasa TV ho yan, pinapanood ko. And an act declaring the city of Carcar as a cultural heritage zone, sponsored by the distinguished Congressman Eduardo Golias. Alam niyo ho, umpisahan ko po sa Carcar City because last elections, I have to recognize and honor Carcar. I was number 2 in Carcar in 2016. And it was a feat considering I'm from Luzon, and it was a struggle for me to win in Visayas, Mindanao. But with the help of Congressman Golias and Mayor Apura, I ranked number 2 in the city of Carcar in 2016. So unahin ho natin yan, just to give due recognition. So with that, we will start deliberating House Bill number 5644, an act declaring the city of Carcar in the province of Cebu a cultural heritage zone. With that, I'm deeply honored that we're joined by Congressman Eduardo Gullias, the of course the grandfather of our dear friend, former Congressman Samsam Gullias. Congressman, you have the floor to sponsor the measure.
Yes, recognize ka.
Mayong buntag, Honorable Chair, Congressman Gatchalian, Chairman of the committee, and distinguished members of the Senate Committee on Basic Education and Culture, and to all those attending physically or via Zoom. This humble representation of the First District of Cebu is humbly proud to present to the Committee House Bill 5644 to be known as the Carcar City Cultural Heritage Zone Act, which was approved in the House of Representatives for third and final reading December 17, 2019, and transmitted to the Senate the following day. From its priceless buildings, many of which predate the Spanish occupation, to its rich cultural tradition, best exhibited by its famous lechon Carcar, occupies a special place in Filipino history and culture. It was a major economic center as well as a nurturing place for artists and intellectuals for hundreds of years. Vestiges of this past still abound and survive to this day, and it is no less than the Constitution of the Philippines that directs us to protect Carcar's rich history. This bill, when signed into law, will ensure the protection of Carcar's priceless and invaluable pieces of history, as well as boost tourism in the city. The increase in tourism will likewise provide the funds for the necessary maintenance and upkeep of the city's size and artifacts. Therefore, I thank most sincerely the committee for taking the time to consider this bill, as it is an integral part of the representation plan for the first district of Cebu. Mayong buntag and God.
Thank you, Congressman Gullias, for the sponsorship speech. We're also joined by Mayor Apura, who's the incumbent mayor of Carcar City. Mayor? Mayor Apura, are you there? Mukhang wala pa ho siya. We'll call on him later on. We'll discuss the proposal on hand, and we will start with the National Historical Commission on their position on the said matter. We recognize
Hello.
Senator Gatchalian.
yes, Mayor, kayo ba ho yan?
This is City Administrator Rogelio T. Montesclaros, Senator. The mayor
Okay.
is just handling an emergency situation right now. So should come in later.
Sige pa, we'll recognize him as soon. Yeah, we'll recognize him as soon as he is present.
Yeah. No problem, Senator.
Okay, we'll give way to the National Historical Commission on their opinion on the bill on hand. Let me recognize Mr. Alvin Alcid.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Yes,
Hello, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me, sir?
yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to our distinguished senators, all our guests. Good morning. The NHCP supports the bill. This was also deliberated. We also attended the deliberation of the House of Representatives. And in fact, the NHCP has restored the Carcar charge in 2017. That's why we are supportive of this bill, Mr. Chair. That's all. Thank you.
Ang iksi naman ng inyong ano? Iksi naman ng inyong sinabi.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, it's Amy here.
Go ahead, Senator Amy.
Yes, firstly, I'd like to greet a member of my family, the great Congressman Ed Villas, and fully support the bill. But may I inquire from NHCP as well as NCCA, what difference would it constitute to declare this a heritage zone? We're well aware of the cultural value of Carcar, but more important would be the funding that would go behind this declaration. So I am aware that right now there are several places, particularly in Ilocanda, with which I'm intimately related, kahit hindi naman dinideklar ng heritage zone, parang national treasure lang, at linalagyan ng plaque, binibigyan naman ng pondo. Are there any additional advantages to the declaration of a heritage zone in the city of Carcar?
Hello.
Chair, good morning. I can offer to answer the question of Senator Marcos.
Yes, go ahead, Jeremy.
This is Jeremy, yeah. Good morning, everyone. And Senator Marcos, just to answer your question, the major difference would be that there will already be an established legal framework for the convergence of various agencies and the relationship with the local government. If NHCP or National Museum were to declare specific sites, that's not necessarily an automatic thing that will happen. So here, there's already a framework proposed to be mandated. The short answer to your question is it would facilitate the necessary work to get tourism development, cultural preservation, and local government support all in place at the same time. That's my view on the matter, ma'am.
Yes, thank you very much, Jeremy. And yes, we understand that there will be some kind of framework that will oblige the convergence of various agencies, including the DOT, as well as the NHCP and the local governments as well. What we are concerned with is that there's adequate financing to back up this auspicious declaration of a heritage zone. Sayang lang yung batas kapag hindi natin mapupondohan. Kung tutuusin, sa susunod na buwan, budget na ang papasukan natin. In which case, meron na ba tayong na-propose na line item sa budget kahit wala pa itong batas na to? Kasi malaki-laki na rin ang suporta ng NHCP, pati na rin ng NCCA sa iba't ibang lugar na may historical sites. Meron na bang tulong na maibibigay kaagad-agad dito sa Carcar? Maybe the NHCP, Alvin,
Yes,
and NCCA, baka may alam kayo tungkol dito. Kasi lagi kaming abala dyan sa mga heritage, marami tayong deklarasyon, pero wala namang ibibigay na pera. Yung World Heritage Site po namin, yung Poway Church, gusto nga namin i-delist noon. At nagtatampo kami doon sa mga deklarasyon ng UN. Wala naman palang karampatang pondo. So perhaps you can guarantee us that some kind of funding support will also be extended.
Madam Senator, Mr. Chair, yun po.
Go ahead po.
Yes, sir. Yun po yung isa sa naging problema namin. In fact, in the NEP po na binigay sa amin ng DBM ngayon, all our capital outlays ay nawala po. Sa proposal po namin for 2021, actually we requested funding for Santa Maria Church, but pagpasok po nung NEP namin, wala po kaming capital outlay. Well, we understand of course because of the pandemic we are in. In fact, this year, some of our funds also for the capital outlay were returned or reverted for the Bayanihan 2+1 Act. So yun po yung naging epekto. Of course, dito po para sa Carcar, we have not yet proposed for 2021, but I'm just laying down the cards po that for 2021, all our we have actually zero capital outlay for 2021. Yun po, Ma'am Senator, Mr. Chair.
Yes, that's right, Alvin and Mr. Chair. Yun nga yung concern ko. We'll be raising expectations unduly. Baka masyadong ma-disappoint sina Mayor at ang ating mga kaibigan dyan sa Carcar kapag hindi natin natulungan. Yun lang po. Otherwise, full support in the effort of Congressman Gulyas and the local government officials that finally Carcar be recognized as a heritage zone.
Thank you, Senator Amy. Just to pursue Senator Amy's point earlier, Mr. Alvin, sabi niyo kanina na natapyasan o natanggalan kayo ng pondo because of COVID. Of course, fighting COVID is the priority right now. But on a larger scale, what will be the impact of that removal to our heritage sites? No, because those funds are used to maintain and even promote those heritage sites. But removing that, we might have some problems in maintaining those sites. No, so ano pa magiging impact doon sa removal ng pondo?
Malaki yung impact, Mr. Chair, but we will appeal pa rin po sa DBM. In fact, we are writing them right now. We wrote them for an appeal, no, para po ibalik yung mga ibang budget for capital outlays, specifically for restoration of heritage structures. Kung mawawala po yan, probably po ang next step namin is to reach out to the respective local government units. Baka po sila mayroon ding may bibigay. On the other hand naman po, of course, we will continue to provide technical assistance as much as we can. But of course, very limited po ang kaya ng NHCP pagdating po doon, Mr. Chair.
Ano yung mga concrete examples? No, for example, name 3 sites that will have that will negatively be impacted by the removal of the funds, so that we can visualize your top of mind, top 3 impact on the removal of the funds.
Well, for next year po kasi, specific po yung nabanggit ko po kanina, we requested funding for Santa Maria Church kasi meron na po siyang, the DBM po kasi is asking for detailed engineering studies that we have already developed. So meron po kaming detailed engineering study for that church. We also have detailed engineering study for other churches as well, no? Ang top of mind po na maapektuhan doon, syempre po, yung pagkasira niya, hindi natin masasawata, no? Medyo maapektuhan siya, no? We'll probably wait a few more years to get some funding. So for the meantime, siguro what we can do is to provide them with some technical assistance on how to at least maintain, no? Wag lang mapabilis po yung deterioration. As of now, meron naman po kaming mga technical team, meron po kaming restoration team that can provide them some advice on how to preserve, no, kahit po hindi lang magtuloy-tuloy yung pong pagkasira ng mga ating mga heritage structures.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Senator Nancy.
Siguro tatanong ko lang, how much was taken out?
I'm sorry, Ma'am Senator. I'll check. Can I get back to you po? I'll just check po yung aming budget for next year. I think about 300 million was taken out. All of these were capital outlays. I'm not so sure about the figure,
This
Ma'am
year or
Senator.
for this year? For next year
For
or for this year?
2021 po. For 2021.
But for 2020?
For 2020, more than 100 million was reverted for the Bayanihan 2+1.
Sige. Mr. Chair, can we just request for submission an itemized report kung ano yung
Yes,
apektado dun sa 100 million na inalis for 2020 budget and then ano yung maapektuhan for the 2021 budget? Yun lang po, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Nancy. And Mr. Alvin, please submit to us the
Yes.
budget that were removed, the amounts that were removed, and then also the projects that will be affected. In
Yes.
short, yung pagtanggal, marami tayong mga heritage sites na hindi ma-maintain. Yan ba yung inyong sinasabi kanina?
Mawawalan po, yes po Mr. Chair, mawawalan po kasi ng pondo. Yun po yung source namin. I am sure this is not only true in our case. I think this is also true with other cultural agencies. I think ano na maybe Director Barnes as well, tinamaan din po sila. Pero yun po, I'll give the committee po a copy of the budget that were this last year and the budget that was affected for next year.
My fear lang kasi some of these cultural sites are quite matatagal na at needs a lot of maintenance. And the reason why we're doing this is to maintain it and preserve it for the next generation. But if you don't preserve it, we might lose that heritage site, or at least a substantial portion of that site. So that's why it's Senator Nancy is asking for a list also of
Yes.
the sites that will be affected.
Yes po.
Mr. Alvin, just to pursue the topic on hand, I know for a fact that there are two ways of declaring an area cultural heritage zone. Now, there's administrative and by legislative fiat. Ano po ang difference nitong dalawa, no, in your knowledge?
This is not the first time po na meron pong House bill, no, to declare a cultural zone, no. Meron na po mga previous case like this. In the case po ng NHCP, we also declare po, no, na meron pong power ang NHCP to declare heritage zones. Siguro ang kaibahan po nito, minsan po mahirap ding i-implement on our end sa NHCP kasi po kailangan namin ng counterpart na ordinansa or batas dun sa local government unit kasi we have to get of course their support para po maprotektahan ito. The difference being dito po sa House bill na to, kung magiging batas po siya, mas maganda po yung suporta kasi po batas ito eh. So mandated po yung mga LGUs and all the stakeholders to preserve, no? Unlike po kasi kapag kami lang nagde-declare, minsan wala pong suporta. In fact, Director Barnes knows this and members of our board, minsan po we're having second thoughts on declaring particular site as a heritage zone kasi kung yung pong mga LGUs hindi naman sila supportive, kung ayaw naman po nila, so wala rin po, we cannot enforce it. Yun po, Mr. Chair.
So in other words, dun sa sinabi nyo, later on, no? We'll deal with that later on. But in this case, kasi I would assume that Mayor Apura, who's here with us through his city legal administrator, is supportive of this measure. So you have both the local and the national supporting the same site.
Yes po.
Gusto ko rin malaman, in declaring a site, there are minimum requirements or at least minimum items that you need to fulfill. Ito bang batas na ito has fulfilled those minimum requirements?
Mr. Chair, siguro po we have to look, meron po kasi kaming survey na rin na ginawa sa Carcar, no? Sa LGU po ng Carcar, and we found out that there are of course a lot of heritage structures, old houses, American period and Spanish period colonial houses that are still existing in the place. Of course, yung pong kanilang church, heritage church, a beautiful church. We also have the monument of Leon Kilat in the area. And of course, yung pong on the cultural side, yung pong kanilang traditions, yung kanila pong yung pagkain dun sa Carcar, no? So yun po yung mga tinitignan ng NHCP para po ma-consider siya. No, this is also the same lens that we're using para po i-declare yung ibang mga sites, no? Or for possible declaration ng ibang sites.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Senator Binay.
Natanong ko lang kay Mr. Acid, meron na ba kayong cultural mapping for Carcar?
Not so sure, ma'am. Cultural mapping po usually is done by the NCCA or through the NCCA, or usually po the LGU themselves conduct the cultural mapping. NHCP po, we are not the one.
Pero kasi di ba dapat yan yung magiging isa sa basehan kung paano siya madedeklara bilang isang cultural zone kung wala tayong, mahalaga na kumbaga na-identify na dun sa lugar na yon kung ano yung mga cultural properties na ma-attribute dun sa lugar na yun.
What we do have, Ma'am Senator, Mr. Chair, is a list of all the heritage structures, historical buildings, historical sites in Carcar. Yun po yung meron kami. I think the other cultural agencies, they have their own specific list. Tama po yung tanong niyo, Ma'am Senator, yung cultural mapping, yun po yung critical dito. Cultural mapping is, we participate in the mapping process, pero po yung cultural mapping itself, ang naggagawa po niyan ang NCCA. So, the NCCA po, Ma'am Chair.
As NCCA, if they have this cultural mapping for Carcar.
NCCA, represented by the Executive Director, Al Ryan Alejandre.
Hi, Chairman. Good morning.
Good morning, Edie.
As of now, Chairman, the City of Carcar, Cebu is requesting to NCCA for having the cultural mapping. So nagre-request pa po sila. Hello?
Yes, yes. We can
So
hear
wala pa. Hindi, wala
po,
pa kayong ginagawa.
Senator, they are requesting from us for a cultural mapping po.
Kayong LGU, meron na.
Putol po kayo, ma'am. Di po ka. Yung ano po, yung Carcar po nagre-request pa lang po ng cultural mapping po sa
Mr. Chair, since yung NCCA wala pa, baka yung LGU merong existing cultural mapping because I think it's very important na meron tayong ganong data kasi I mean, ano yung magiging basihan for a declaration when parang wala tayong inventory of what's in Carcar for it to be declared as a cultural zone. I mean, I'm supportive of this bill. Kailangan lang natin siguro malaman yung magiging basihan pag pinasa na natin ito.
Charles.
Senator Binay.
Sorry ha, pinutol kita kasi yung sa akin nakadirect. So wala pa, no? Okay. Sige. Charles, if meron kasing question.
I think si Mayor ata wants to speak.
Yes, Mayor Apura, you're recognized.
Senator Binay, Mr. Chair, good morning. This is Rogelio T. Montes Claros, the City Administrator. We've learned that you're asking for the heritage inventory, culture map. I think it is already embodied in our municipal ordinance number 10-05, dictating all the necessary an ordinance declaring certain building, structures, monuments, and sites in the municipality of Carcar as towns, heritage monuments, sites, and zones, and creating the Carcar Cultural Heritage Conservation Council and other purposes. Nandun na lahat ang mga items na we're dreaming of to be declared as heritage sites. Under specifically on Section 3. Nandun lahat, Mr. Chairman. Section 3, declaration of heritage zones, monuments, and sites without prejudice to those heritage monuments and sites to be declared or declared by the National Historical Institute as national shrines, national monuments, national landmarks, all structures located in the municipality of Carcar which are 50 years old or more in existence and conform to the definitions set in Section 2 of this ordinance are hereby declared heritage monuments and sites. In particular, the 3 watchtowers of Inayagan Tuyom and Baksihi of Barangay Ocaña, the acacia trees lining in the National Road in Barangay Perillos, Rotonda and Kioks, and the old cemetery in Poblacion 3. It is also hereby declared as heritage zones, Barangays Poblacion 1, 2, and 3. Poblacion 1 streets, Jose Rizal Street, Upper Geraluna Street, San Vicente Street, the Church and Municipal Plaza, San Jose Street, P. Vasquez Street, C. Noel Street, F. Noel Street, and Fraternidad Saint Street, Poblacion 2 streets, Jose Rizal Street, Santa Catalina Street, Lower Geraluna Street, Burgos Street, Plaridel Street, Rosario Street, La Libertad Street, Poblacion 3 streets, Pinilia Street, upper portion of Awayan and Dapdap. The use and preservation of the above declared monuments, sites, and zones, as far as practicable, shall always be the concern of the municipality of Carcar. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, City Admin. Senator Binay?
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Again to Mr. Alvin of the National Historical Commission, no? Under your guidelines, no, you have a guideline, guidelines on the identification, classification, recognition of historical sites and structures in the Philippines, and you have 6 items in your criteria. No, you have a set of criteria. Ito ba, Mr. Alvin, the Carcar, has it fulfilled the items in your guidelines?
Let me get back to you, Mr. Chair. Saglit pa.
While you get back to us, let me get some comments from Mr. Jeremy Barnes of the National Museum. Jeremy, any comments on the bill at hand?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just like my colleague said, we attended the hearings on this measure in the House, and we took the opportunity to express our full support. We didn't submit a written position paper, merely a verbal manifestation such as this one. But I do remember raising the primary concern of the road widening of the Cebu South Road, which threatens all of the heritage towns south of Cebu, Metro Cebu, all the way down to Argao and Santander. And Carcar is very much a leading municipality that we're concerned with in this southern road area. And so we were raising the prospect that maybe neighboring municipalities south of Metro Cebu could climb up aboard the same kind of measure, although Carcar is particularly rich in heritage. And so we were just broaching the idea of the provincial government trying to bring the various LGUs together so that in Congress you can tackle a larger concern composed of a string of LGUs in that area. That was my main comment. But it's indisputable that Carcar is particularly rich in historical and artistic resources. We have let NHCP take the lead when it comes to the buildings and the church, and we naman have taken the lead on the artistic heritage. So many of the renowned Cebuano artists originate in Carcar. Romulo Gallicano comes immediately to mind, as well as his mentor, Martino Abellano. These are artists that have left a legacy of artistic and creative industry in Carcar, of which the Cebuanos are very proud. And so we would like that to be fostered and sustained. Just like what Alvin said, we don't have budget to directly apply, but we have all the technical assistance we can muster in terms of archaeologists, some architects, some conservation scientists, and then of course our botanists and zoologists if we go into that aspect. Thank you, sir.
Don't forget, Jeremy, the pride and joy product of Carcar, the chicharon.
Lechon.
The lechon and the chicharon, which I
Lechon.
always buy whenever I'm in Cebu.
Yes, absolutely, sir.
Yeah. Jeremy, you used a very powerful description earlier, indisputable, no? Can you elaborate on that? Why do you think that this is an indisputable, it's indisputable that Carcar should be declared as a national historical zone?
Well, it seems I don't have all the materials at hand, Senator, but it was a very prosperous town. When Cebu had a railway, it was the southern end of the railway. Danao was the northern end. I think it was a very prosperous town, and the leading citizens or all the townsfolk really banded together to make their town especially beautiful. Starting with the church, the dispensary next to it, the rotonda in the center of town, decorating it with all kinds of statues, gazebos, fountains, if I'm not mistaken. And they took great pride in the beauty of their houses, to an extent that you don't see everywhere. Uh, I'm not sure if it's by luck or through continuity of municipal pride through the generations up to today, but these have remained largely intact. So it's a special place for sure.
Thank you, thank you. We want to hear comments from the NCCA, represented by the ED, Mr. Al Ryan Alejandre.
Good
Any
morning,
comments on the
Chair.
bill? Yes.
Yeah, good morning, Chair. Good morning to the rest of our resource speaker, Senator Binay, Senator Marcos. Well, Mr. Chair, we will give our position, our stand from NCCA. Isahin na lang po namin, Mr. Chair, regarding the House Bill number 5643 and 5644, declaring Cagayan de Oro and Carcar City as a cultural heritage zone, respectively pursuant to Article 4, Section 12, designation of heritage zone of RA 166 or the National Cultural Heritage Act of 2009. Mr. Chair, we commend the author of valuing the preservation and protection of the cultural heritage as a key foundation and driver of the city and community development. Further, we also find, Mr. Chair, the measure consistent with the tourism development policy po, particular with Chapter 4 of RA 9593. Ito po yung Tourism Act of 2009, Mr. Chair, on the establishment of tourism enterprise zone. Ito po yung question kanina ni Senator Marcos, no, about the funding. We call it TEZ or TES, the Cultural Heritage category, where in any area designated as TEZ is given an economic support po, binibigyan po ng economic support. Kung dyan po yung ating category, no, Cultural Heritage category. This kind of scenario, Mr. Chair, ito po yung nagpaparemind po sa atin sa case po ng Iloilo City. If you can still remember, declaring last 2013 as Cultural Heritage Tourism Zone, per RA po ito ng 10555. Fulfilling the requirements po ito ng Section 61 and 62 of RA 9593. Ito po yung creation of the development plan and the administration of activities. So hence, Mr. Chair, may we respectfully propose ito po yung consideration of such provision, no, of RA 10555 in the said bill to make them much more comprehensive and sustainable. And I'd like to also add more with this, Mr. Chair. I'd like to call our Heritage Section Head, Mr. Charles Salazar, to add about our stand from NCCA. Charles, please be recognized, Mr. Chair of Mr.
We
Charles.
recognize Mr. Charles of NCCA. Mr. Charles, you recognize?
Charles, can you turn on your mic?
Nandiyan ba siya? I can't hear you, Mr. Charles.
Okay, on yung mic mo, Charles. Well, anyway, Mr. Chairman, that is our record. Ayan, sige, Charles. Go ahead, Charles.
Yes, sir. Sorry, is there a question? Kindly repeat, please.
Yes, go ahead. You were referred by Mr. Al Ryan to give comment on the bill at hand, declaring Carcar City as a cultural heritage zone.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate the bills, but I understand that the intention is to, other than heritage preservation, it's also intended for tourism purposes. We've been working with TIESA before because there is a category under tourism enterprise zones, which are cultural heritage in category. And so far, I believe they have not yet made any designation of a tourism enterprise zone of such category. However, we recognize that there was a law designating certain areas in Iloilo as a tourism enterprise zone, designating DOT and the Heritage Council of the Iloilo City as the corporate entity responsible for developing, formulating a development plan and implementing such plan. We hope that such model would serve as a basis for improving the bills pertaining to Carcar and Cagayan de Oro, because we see this as consistent with Tourism Act of 2009.
Well, those provisions are included in the bill,
Yes.
actually, and it's consistent in two measures. So thank you very much. We're also joined by yes, Senator
Mr. Chair.
Amy. Yes, Senator Amy, go ahead.
Sorry, just a quick comment, no? Doon sa TIESA, sana makikisuyo ako sa TIESA na sana baguhin o review nila yung kanilang mga guidelines for a tourism enterprise zone, precisely because they are inappropriate for many of the historical and heritage sites. Unang-una yung requirement of 5 hectares. E paano ka naman hahanap ng 5 hectares sa kalagitnaan ng lungsod katulad ng Carcar? Pagkatapos may mga evidence of title, samantalang marami dito, talagang pagkaari ng simbahan, alangan naman agawin pa ng LGU o sino man. So there are many provisions and requirements imposed by the TIESA in order to establish a tourism enterprise zone that are inapt for heritage sites, which are clearly in the center of town, belong to the church or to other charitable institutions, and therefore can never avail of TIESA's monies. Ikalawa, I would just like to congratulate Congressman Gullas for his all-of-government approach. Itong convergence na for the first time ina-apply sa tourism and heritage, pati na rin sa TIESA kung saan talagang may pera. Hindi po namin naisip yan. Therefore, tagayahin po namin sa Ilocos itong through legislation. Chair, with your indulgence, I'm going to join the local government meeting. Ang huling hirit ko na lang po, I would just like to enjoin the support of my colleagues, both in the House as well as in the Senate, Senator Binay, Senator Gatchalian, for support for the restoration of the line-item budget in GAA 2021 for Santa Maria Church in Ilocos Sur. It is a World Heritage Site, one of the prides of Philippine Baroque architecture. And unfortunately, because it is so unique as a citadel church, it has also been very, very badly eroded. A walled city fortress talaga ni overlooking na yung buong kung kaya baka mahulog na lang ito ng tuluyan. Much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The DOT is to hear DOT. They're represented by Sec Arturo Yus Yusek Bongkato of
Honorable
can you Yusek Bong
Mr. Chairman, if Yusek is not here, I'm the
or
regional
anyone are you from DOT?
Mr. Chairman, I'm the regional director of Central Visayas.
Mr.
Okay.
Chair,
Okay. Yes, Senator Binay.
hindi, gusto ata magsalita ni Kong.
Let me just hear a response from the DOT Region 7. And then we recognize Congressman Gulyas after. So,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
good morning. Yeah, Mr. Chairman. Yes, we fully support this this move. In fact, this is timely because there are events and activities that have been postponed this year. Some are international, but there are activities like the 500 years which we cannot postpone, and that is a few months from now. 500 years which really started here in Cebu, and Carcar being one of the showcase of what we have for our 500 years. We fully support this measure, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you. We recognize Congressman Gulyas.
First of all, Honorable Chair, I'd like to acknowledge with thanks and appreciation the comments of Senator Jaime Marcos. I recall the senator had the opportunity to visit us and visit the place. And the comments that she made here has been very true and correct. Secondly, I also would wish to thank the Honorable Chair for giving us the opportunity to appear before this committee and present our proposal. May I include, first of all, our sincerest thanks and appreciation to Senator Jaime Marcos. She also has been our guest in Carcar and the district, and she knows the area like she knows her own district. I also would wish to thank the other members of the committee for the positive comments in favor of our bill. Honorable Chair, I hope that we will have this chance for Carcar and the neighboring towns of Carcar to be given the opportunity to also shine and present the true facts of the case. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Congressman Gulyas. Thank you very much for that comment. And indeed, I've been to Carcar many times, and indeed, it's one of the most beautiful as well as, I would say, economically productive cities in Cebu. And like I said, I holds a dear place in my heart because I fared quite well in the 2016 elections there. We also are joined by the the Heritage Conservation Society, represented by Mr. Mark Richard Evidente. Any comments po, Mr. Evidente?
Sir, members of the committee, good morning. Thank you po for extending the invitation to us to participate in this committee hearing. As a general rule for this and the other bill, no, we are highly supportive of these measures because, of course, we are very interested and appreciative when Congress takes the initiative in declaring parts of the country as heritage districts, no? Because it's a chicken and egg process that we feel, no, that someone has to start the process, someone has to start the conversation para mabigyan ng pansin at malagyan ng resources in order to preserve our heritage sites, no. So I think this ties in earlier with your question, Mr. Chair, no. What's the difference between the two processes, no? I think the administrative process is more shall we say, stakeholder driven, no? So, citizen driven, no? Mag-a-apply yung citizen to have an area declared, no? But the other side, no, kung government driven, then legislative process is a good way to go about it, no? So I think Carcar has done its homework, no? It has heritage sites, no? But of course, more research will need to be done to elevate that into a cultural map. More research and planning will need to be done to turn that into a conservation management plan for the zone. No? But I think that's something that precisely should come out of passing this bill and turning it into law. That the district will have the area rather will have the resources to finally come up with the necessary research, the proper conservation planning, and then that will be integrated with the LGU's plans. No? Kasi minsan yung nangyayari is that we have heritage sites, no? Individual sites, individual structures, meron silang plano, pero hindi na-integrate with the rest of the community. No? So I think crucial yan na ma-declare siya as zone para yung individual sites ma-integrate yung development plan nila, ma-integrate yung conservation plan with the rest of the community. So you don't end up having, shall we say, sore thumbs na we have these very new structures or these very incompatible structures right beside heritage houses, diba? Or right behind them na nasisira in view. So yan po yung goal ng heritage zoning, heritage plan, coming up with the heritage district or heritage zone, that we have a holistic view on how the zone will be developed and conserved. And then a lot of research and a lot more development planning goes into the zone also to manage the needs of conservation and development. So yun po, Mr. Chair, no? So that pretty much sums up our organization's position for the two bills pertaining to the declaration of two zones, no? Mainly for Cagayan de Oro River and for Carcar. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mark. I also have a pending question to Mr. Alvin Alcid of the NHCP. Mr. Alvin, ready na kayo with the answer?
Yes, Mr. Chair, with regards to, you're referring, Mr. Chair, to the guidelines of the
Correct.
NHCP?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, yun po, I think doon po sa batas kasi sa proposed na batas na ito, after it became a law, it becomes a law, magiging kasama po ang NHCP doon sa gagawa ng IRR nito, and that's the time that we will apply po yung mga guidelines na ginagamit po ng NHCP sa iba't ibang mga heritage zones, sa iba't ibang mga declarations na ginagawa. Mr. Chair.
Yeah, pero diba when you declare, there are certain set of criteria that you have to at least fulfill, correct?
Yes po. For specific structures po, Mr. Chair. For specific structures, meron po.
For Carcar, ano ba siya? Has it fulfilled those specific criteria?
With regards po, Mr. Chair, dun sa mga structures that we declared, yung pong simbahan, yung pong ilang mga heritage houses doon sa Carcar, because we already declared some heritage houses within the area po. Pero not the whole Carcar. Yun po, Mr. Chair.
But at least it has the components to become a heritage zone.
Yes po, Mr. Chair. That is supportive also of the comment earlier of the heritage of Mr. Mark Evidente na yun po, it will really help, no? Kasi po, nandyan na yung suporta ng stakeholders. It would really help us as well. NHCP po matutulungan nila dyan pag meron po tayong ginagawa.
But with this law, it will be the whole city will become a heritage zone. So it will expand.
Meron pong I think po, no, I think I don't know about the members of the committee, pero ang tingin ko po diyan, meron pong mga zones. The whole place is heritage zone, but of course you have to balance it po with development. So meron pong mga areas na pwedeng i-develop, meron pong areas na ipe-preserve. So po meron pong ganun. We have to have a middle ground in the development of the site. Yun po, Mr.
Of course, the LGU will play a very big role in zoning, no? In zoning. But itself, the city itself, as what I hear from the resource persons, and description nga ni Jeremy, indisputable, it's indisputable that Carcar City is a heritage zone, and it has all the components to become a cultural heritage zone as a city. So with that, all right. With that, Senator Binay, may you have Senator Binay? Do you want to make a motion to approve House Bill number 5644, declaring Carcar City as a cultural heritage zone?
Before we approve, I think nandiyan na ata si Mayor Apura of Carcar.
Yan na ba? Mayor, are you there?
Baka you can give her a chance to speak.
Mayor, are you present with us virtually?
Yes, Senator. Good morning po sa lahat. Senator Gatchalan at Senator Binay. At sa lahat ng mga congressman at mga resource person.
Mayor, go ahead. You can give your sponsorship speech or endorsement speech.
At sa lahat nandoon, magandang umaga po sa lahat.
Go ahead po, Mayor. You can give comments on the bill.
Okay, I'm very happy, Senator, no? I'm very happy sa bill na yon. Magpasalamat kami sa lahat sa inyo, Congressman Collias, na the one who sponsored that bill, and also sa lahat na kasi yung bill dati lang naming hinihintay. Kasi yon, hinihintay sa lahat ng mga Carcaranons. Para makakatulong namin dito for the preservation of the development of the city of Carcar.
All right, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, Senator Binay, you have the honor of endorsing the bill.
Sir, I move that we approve declaring Carcar City as a cultural heritage zone.
Thank you, Senator Binay. Salamat po, Senator Gatchalian,
Amy Marcos.
Senator Amy Marcos, sa lahat nandoon, sa mga congressman, especially to Sir Eddie Golias. Salamat po sa lahat. Ito yung bill magamit namin para maunlad at makatulong sa turismo sa aming syudad, sa Carcar. Thank you so much on behalf of the Carcaranons.
Thank you very much. Hearing no objection, the committee is now endorsing House Bill number 5644, declaring Carcar City as a cultural heritage zone.
Thank you, Senators. Salamat po.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Congressman Gulyas. Next is we tackle House Bill number 5643.
Thank you. Thank you.
An act declaring the Cagayan Oro River
Innocent.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman, I cannot hear you.
Congressman, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you now. Good morning.
Yes.
Mayong buntag, Chairman Win Gatchalian. Mayong buntag, Senator Nancy Binay. And to Congressman Gulyas, congratulations. And to Mayor Apura, mayong buntag to all the resource persons this morning. Mr. Chairman, of course, you have come to Cagayan de Oro City, the city of golden friendship, many times, and you always cross that Cagayan de Oro River, which divide the first district of Congressman Uy and my district, the second district. Now, Cagayan de Oro River, Mr. Chairman, is the area where the initial settlement, very early on in our history, was evolved. And this river is where also, when the Spaniards came in 1622, coming from Caraga, the Recollect Order evangelized our city, and they passed through this river going inland and established what is now known as the population of Cagayan de Oro City. Cagayan de Oro City River is a first-class river, one of the few rivers that are first-class as classified by the DNR. And early on, about 10 years ago, Archbishop Oscar Ledesma, Archbishop Antonio Ledesma, organized the Cagayan de Oro River Preservation Council. And the reason for that is that there are now earth-moving activities in the area. There are now poultry production, piggery, destroying the very pristine Class A river of Cagayan de Oro. Secondly, this is Cagayan de Oro River is now the venue of the #1 tourist attraction of Cagayan de Oro, the whitewater rafting. And if we are going to pollute that river, there will be no more whitewater rafting. So, Mr. Chairman, I am therefore requesting your committee. I am very happy. This is my first time to be invited to any committee in the Senate, probably because my bills are now with you. And I am thankful that you have asked us to attend. And so therefore, I would wish that this be taken up today. I have heard the resource persons, because when they gave their comments on the bill of Congressman Gulyas, they always mention also my bill, because they are about cultural heritage, and I have heard them. I have heard NCAA, Mr. Alejandre, Mr. Salazar, Mr. Evidente of the Preservation Society, and the others. And I have with me, and we have with us now, the Regional Director for Tourism, the Honorable Regional Director May Anjuan of Region 10. And so I would therefore just request that
there has been, Mr. Chairman, a very good statement of the NCAA about injecting into the bill the tourism aspect. And I've heard also the tourism regional director. So I think, Mr. Chairman, we should be able to take the suggestions of the different resource persons that at the same time, the cultural aspect of the bill, we can already include similar to the Iloilo, Bacolod example, will also be a tourism area. And you know, Mr. Chairman, being the Senate, you know, the Senate can always improve on what we in the House does, because you know, there was a debate between George Washington and Thomas Jefferson on whether the U.S. Congress should be unicameral or bicameral. And you know, Mr. Chairman, what George Washington said to Jefferson, who was for Thomas Jefferson was for a unicameral assembly, like the Parliament of England. And he said, why do you put your coffee from the coffee pot to the cup? And Jefferson answered, to cool it, precisely according to George Washington. The heat, you know, the turbulence of the House will be through maturity be improved by the Senate. So that is the statement of George Washington. So there's a need for the Senate. However, Speaker Tip O'Neill, Mr. Chairman, and Speaker Newt Gingrich said that it is a misnomer to say that the House of Representatives is a lower house. The only reason it's called lower house because when the first Congress of the United States started in New York at the Federal Hall, the Senate went to the first floor and the House went to the second floor. So according to Newt Gingrich, Your Honor, the House is the bigger house and you are, Your Honor, the smaller house. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Rufus. Every time I listen to you, you never fail to enlighten me and educate me. My first question to you, Congressman Rufus, yung mga libro ba ninyo sa likod nyo, binasa nyo lahat yan?
Well, hindi pa talaga. Because, you know, Mr. Chairman, to tell you, I have the three, I think, the biggest collection in the country because I've done this when I was still a student. No? The left side, Mr. Chairman, is about history. History of almost all the countries of the world here, history. In the middle, Mr. Chairman, are biographies of Disraeli, Gladstone, Roosevelt, all the great people of the world, including Yasser Arafat. And on the right side, Mr. Chairman, is war. Gera. Yan ang gusto ko. I have all the wars of Stalingrad, Leningrad, you know, in Flanders fields, in France and everywhere, Mr. Chairman. So these are the three collections that I have, Mr. Chairman. But
Thank you.
In direct answer, not all have been read, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Kong Rufus, because whenever you're on TV, it amazes me to see all your books, your collection of books behind you. And I always listen to your interview. Yung books behind me are all virtual. Hindi ho totoo in akin eh. No, sa inyo ho totoo.
But you have everything already in your mind, Mr. Chairman. With you.
Thank you, Kong Rufus. And we will proceed with the hearing of the said bill. We will start off with, of course, NHCP again, represented by Deputy Director Alvin Alcid. Any comments on the bill on hand? Mr. Alvin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Congressman Rufus. Good morning again, everyone. Senator Binay, Congressman Gulyas. Archaeological. May I read, Mr. Chair, the position of the NHCP on this matter? Archaeological studies have confirmed that Cagayan de Oro River was the site of thriving pre-colonial shoreline communities. The river also witnessed one of the major victories of the Philippine Republican Army against the U.S. forces through the Battle of Macahambus Hill of June 4, 1900. This was recognized by the NHCP when it installed on June 4, 2000 the historical marker Labanan sa Burol ng Macahambus at Macahambus Hill, Barangay Bayanga, a riverside community. Thus, the NHCP is supportive of this bill, Mr. Chair, as we did during the hearing at the House of Representatives.
Thank you, Mr. Alvin. Talagang matipid kayo magsalita, eh, no?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Kong Rufus.
Thank you for recognizing me again, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank Mr. Alcid for reminding us that indeed, archaeologically, the UP group of archaeologists and also the Cultural Center, and I see Mr. Jeremy Barnes here, they found in the slope of Upper Cagayan de Oro, not the poblacion, because that was transferred already. The first settlements were really upper, that is almost across the old airport. And there we had a lot of obsidian glass, some bones, and some small artifacts that were found in that area, because the Cagayan de Oro River was really where the early civilization of Cagayan de Oro started. So the first point to Mr. Alcid, thank you for that. The second one is the Battle of Macahambos Cave. And of course, your marker there is very clear for all. And you know, Mr. Chairman, this is one of the first victories of Filipinos against America, because here 9 Americans died and 1 was captured, and no Filipino of General Capistrano and Apolinar Velez was even hurt in that area. It was an ambush and the Americans died there. So historically, we have 2, the early settlement and also the Macahambos Cave. And that is why when things become already settled in this country, I'd like to invite the source persons first to see the site of that first settlement, and then Macahambos Cave, if they have not yet seen it. And then, of course, I will treat you all to the whitewater rafting. Almost all the congressmen who went there for hearings had been able to go there as I host them. So my standing invitation is, I hope we get a vaccine so that we can all be together, and we will invite all our resource persons, if you have not yet done so, because many have already done it, including Senator Win. You have been there, correct? And Senator Binay, to the whitewater rafting, our number one tourist attraction, correct?
Yes, Senator Rufus, we will take your invitation after the pandemic. Me and Senator Binay and Senator Marcos will definitely schedule and try out your world-renowned whitewater rafting. I have to admit, I've been to the one in Davao, but never to the one in Cagayan River. So we will take up your invitation once a vaccine is ready in our country.
Our pleasure, Mr. Chairman, our pleasure.
Thank you. And your wealth of knowledge in history is really amazing. Sabi ko nga sa staff ko, Kong Rufus, walking history book kayo eh. No, from Filipino-Chinese history to the American War, talagang kabisado niyo ho yan.
Thank you.
We also want to hear from NCCA, Executive Director Ryan S. Alejandre.
Thank you very much, Chairman Gatchalian. Again, mayong buntag kanatong tanan, Senator Binay and Senator Marcos, as well as our honorable congressman from Cagayan de Oro, ang amuang silingan lugar. I'm from Davao City, sir. I'm a former councilor from Davao. Congressman Rodriguez and Congressman Julias from Cebu, no, and the rest of our speakers from different agencies. Mr. Chair, we also have same comment a while ago that the NCCA is supportive on this House bill. Of course, we commend the author for valuing the preservation and protection of the cultural heritage, Mr. Chairman, as a key foundation driver of the city and the community development. Again, ulitin lang po namin, Mr. Chairman, that we also find measure consistent po yung sa akin sinasabi na tourism development policy po, no? Particular with Chapter 4 of RA 9593 po, yung Tourism Act of 2009. Yung sa TIESA po, yung Tourism Enterprise Zone, doon po masasabi po cultural heritage category. As mentioned by Congressman Rufus Rodriguez, no, that one of the drivers to really make the city progressive is also through tourism. And this kind of scenario, Mr. Chairman, reminds us, again, as mentioned a while ago, yung sa Iloilo po, no? Yun yung pong ating model. So again, Mr. Chair, we are supportive on this item on behalf of the National Commission for Culture and Arts. Daghang salamat ug may buntag.
Thank you, Director Alrayan. And in Section 7 of the proposal, and let me just quote, the DOT in coordination with the Philippine Tourism Authority, the DNR, the city government, Cagayan, and the other government agency concerned shall prepare the development plan involving preservation, conservation, restoration, and maintenance. So there's a tourism component, which I truly agree, in order to sustain the protection, conservation, as well as promotion, you need some income revenue that is compliant to some form of ecological tourism. So that's why in both laws, Carcar and also in this one, in both proposals, a tourism component is in the bill. And we would like to solicit some more comments and suggestions from NCCA as well as the NHCP to probably improve on that provision, whether that provision is ready enough or we can expand that provision to take into consideration the experiences of Iloilo when it comes to tourism promotion. We also want to hear
Mr.
from
Chair?
yes,
Chair?
Senator Binay. Yes.
Siguro just a comment dun sa provision na yun. Kasi well, there are also instances wherein conservation and tourism, medyo may mga instances na nagkakaroon sila ng conflict. And sana, since this is conservation, mas mangibabaw yon kesa dun sa need to generate income. Because at the end of the day, what's important is conservation of our culture, di ba? Kasi alam naman natin, may mga pagkakataon na kung saan yung turismo, yung sumisira dun sa heritage sites natin eh. And sana, laging mas mangingibabaw yung pagpe-preserve ng ating kultura more than the income generation. Yun lang po, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Binay. And Senator Binay is the chairman of the Tourism Committee. And that's why she is very knowledgeable and she's well versed in terms of how to balance the tourism revenue as well as conserving our heritage zones and cultural zones. Thank you for that suggestion, Senator Binay. I think that comment was widely heard by Congressman Rufus because in his bill, he also put a proviso here, provided that the said development plan shall ensure preservation and maintenance of the Cagayan de Oro River free from threats of pollution, industrialization, and other environmentally destructive activities of man. So, na-foresee na ni Kong Rufus yan and she include a proviso that preservation and maintenance should be above all compared to the revenue being generated. But we will like Senator Binay to suggest some more provisions here to make sure that we indeed preserve the beauty and the heritage aspect of the river.
Chair, ba kasi NCCA can come up with certain guidelines on how to, I think kasi mas kailangan sila yung lead agency more than the DOT because this is di ba, preservation and conservation to ng heritage natin eh. So baka mas kailangan mas sila yung lead more than TIEZA, more than DOT.
Yeah, we'll request from NCCA their position paper on the bills on hand. We'll move along with the National Museum of the Philippines, Mr. Jeremy Barnes.
Thank you, Senator, Mr. Chair. Hello, Congressman Rufus. Good to see you again.
Good morning.
Good morning. In the House, when this was being heard by your counterpart committee, we expressed our full support. Obviously, beyond the obvious cultural resources, such as the archaeological sites that the Congressman explained, of course, the National Museum is strongly preservationist when it comes to the natural environment. The Cagayan River is one of the great rivers of the Philippines. And personally, in 2009, when I was undergoing the required modules to become a career executive in the civil service, I did my local immersion for 1 week in the upper Cagayan de Oro River, in the most far-flung barangay of the city, a very poor community at that time. But I experienced the beauty and the wealth and the wonders of personally. So I personally am very supportive, and the National Museum for its natural and archaeological mandate expresses its full support for this bill. I do agree with Senator Binay. The tourism versus preservation aspect is key here. If that could be strengthened, I think that would be an improvement to the bill. But as it stands and as it was approved in the House, we fully support this text.
Thank you, Jeremy. We're also joined by a representative of Mayor Oscar Moreno of the Cagayan de Oro City, Engineer Armen Cuenca. Engineer.
Yes, Mr. Committee Chair, Senator Win Gatchalian, good morning. Also to Senator Nancy and Senator Amy. Also to our Congressman, sikat nga Congressman sa Tibok Pilipinas, Rocos Rodriguez. Mayong buntag sa tanan. Hello?
Yes, any comments po on the bill?
Yeah, first of all, again, I would like to commend the Honorable Congressman Rocos for the landmark legislation on House Bill number 5643. However, as far as the city government is concerned, we are limited to our territorial jurisdiction, considering that Cagayan de Oro City is merely the receiving end of the Cagayan de Oro River. The Cagayan de Oro River has a total land area of about 138,000 hectares, with headwaters from the two mountains located in Bukidnon, namely Mount Kalatungan and Mount Kitanglad. And more than almost 47% are classified as alienable and disposable land. Due to Cagayan de Oro River's coverage, the Cagayan de Oro River Basin Management Council, as what Congressman Ropo said a while ago, it was created through the initiative of the Archdiocese of Cagayan de Oro, led by Bishop Ledesma. And this is co-chaired by the regional directors of DENR, DILG, and the Department of Agriculture. And also some members from the NGO and people's organization. In 2018, the Watershed Management Plan of Cagayan de Oro River Basin was formulated by DNR through the Integrated Natural Resources and Environmental Management Project, or NREM. And the plan described the present state of the river, its vulnerability to hazard, land use, zoning, environmental issues, problems and opportunities, and the proposed management intervention and strategies for the entire watershed or watershed landscape. Also, it presents of the improving the quality of life, the people therein, while integrating environmental protection, conservation, and management. In short, Mr. Chair, House Bill number 5640 should be geared towards the institutionalization of the Cagayan de Oro River Management Master Plan, in order that this to be taken into consideration for the improvement and viability of the House Bill number 5643. Thank you.
Thank you. Alam niyo ho, engineer, sa kahabaan po ng river, ilan po ang nasa Cagayan de Oro? Ilang portion po? Do you have that technical information? Ang kahabaan po ng Cagayan de Oro River, ilan po ang nasa Cagayan de Oro City? Do you have that?
I don't have the data for now, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Do you know if it's a substantial portion or if it's a little portion? Alam niyo ba? Alam ko mahaba ho 'yan eh. No?
Yeah, siguro it's around 40% of the entire coverage of the river.
Yeah. Yes. Congressman Rufus, you want to join in? Yes, Kong, you're on mute, Kong.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I think it's even more than 40% because the others in Bukidnon will be the tributaries like Bubunawan River and the others. So it's about more than 50% will be from our barangays in the upper area, from Mambuaya, from Bayanga, and then down to the mouth of the river. So more than 50%, Mr. Chairman, would be Cagayan, because the others from Bukidnon are just the tributaries, Mr. Chairman.
But Kong Rufus, we're declaring the river irrespective of the political
Yes.
jurisdiction, no? So
Yes,
we're not.
because
Okay.
that
So
will
we're
be
not.
down to Bukidnon also. That will be down to everyone, Mr. Chairman.
So we're not only declaring a specific portion of a river. No, we're declaring the entire river from Bukidnon. From Bukidnon, then it will traverse to Cagayan de
Yes.
Oro City, and then all the way down. No, okay.
Yes,
All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, we're also joined by the DNR Regional Director Adorable.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am representing Red Adorable. We have here a position paper regarding on the House Bill 5643, no, entitled An Act declaring the Cagayan de Oro River and its immediate environs located in Cagayan de Oro City, province of Misamis Oriental, a cultural heritage zone, authored by no less than Congressman Representative Marcos Rodriguez. We highly appreciate and strongly support the initiative of the Honorable Congressman to conserve and manage the cultural resources of Region 10, specifically the area cited in the bill. We have high hopes that this bill will forge ahead to safeguard our tradition and culture and strengthen our cultural roots and values. This office has the following recommendation. In fact, our role namin sa DNR is only to provide in terms of technical assistance, like delineation and demarcation of the approved cultural heritage zone. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Sir, part of the objectives, no, is to protect and conserve this river. No, if you can see from the law, that's one of the most important objectives. My question is, can we still ano po ang diferensya? Ano ang difference, no, when we declare this as a cultural heritage zone and declare this as a protected area under the NIPAS law? Because the NIPAS law can also declare a specific area, a specific river to be protected by the state. So ano po ang kaibahan, no, nitong batas tsaka declaration under the NIPAS law?
Actually, Mr. Chairman, the section 32, no, the DNR, the same, the law of the DNR, the same act states that the DNR shall be responsible for the establishment and management of the national integrated protected area system and the conservation of wildlife resources, including cave and cave resources, and which shall coordinate with the National Commission on Indigenous People. This conservation of natural resources that are cultural sanctuaries of indigenous people. So, iba itong role namin sa DNR as far as the National Integrated Protected Area System and the conservation of wildlife resources, Mr. Chairman.
Is there any what do you think, what is the difference? So no, because the law also calls for protection and conservation, and under the NIPA's law you can declare, no, DNR can declare through a presidential proclamation.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Protected area is also declared through proclamation.
But can we pass this law and still declare it as a protected area under the NIPA's law? Can that be done? Obviously, the NIPA's law is a much more comprehensive law when it comes to protected areas. No, that's a very detailed guideline.
There was another bill passed by Congressman Rocos, House Bill number 2719, entitled An Act Declaring Certain Portion of Cagayan de Oro City to be known as the Cagayan de Oro Ipunan Watershed as the protected area under the category of protected landscape and its peripheral areas as buffer zone, providing for its management and for other purposes. This was authored by Congressman Rocos Rodriguez, which was pending on the lower house. This is another bill passed by Congressman Rocos Rodriguez, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, but my question is because there's meron tayong NIPA's law, di ba ho, Director?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And the NIPA's law can declare a specific area a protected area.
Yes,
Correct?
Yes.
So my question is, what's the difference between this bill and the NIPA's law? Because the NIPA's law gives DNR the authority to declare it. You can declare it under a presidential proclamation. I just want to know the difference po.
Mr. Chairman, can I?
Kong Rufus.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. In fact, I would like to thank Regional Director Adorable for mentioning also my other bill. Now, the other bill is we have two ecosystems in Cagayan de Oro. That is the Cagayan de Oro River Basin and the Ipunan River. And I have a bill for both of them as far as to make them protected areas. Now, the cultural heritage zone is another kind of protection where culture is preserved because in the NIPAS, normally these are forests, these are areas where there are river basins that you want to protect them. They are really natural. In other words, environmentally required to be protected. While in our case, Mr. Chairman, because of the history, as stated, the history of Macahambos, the history of the early settlement, it is also protected not only because it is a basin, but because there is culture involved of the city of Cagayan de Oro. So that is the main difference. But in fact, I'm also passing if they will overlap, Mr. Chairman, so much the better, because in my other bill, this will again overlap. This will now go to the ecology. It's in another committee, and we have therefore there the protection of the basin and the remaining growth there. So that is the difference, Mr. Chairman. The cultural one is really, it just so happened that the cultural situation, like the cave and then the settlements, are on the banks of the river. So I think that's the distinction, Mr. Chairman. But I have a bill also to protect the Punan River Basin and the area around it, and the Cagayan de Oro even bigger than the Cagayan de Oro and its environs, Mr. Chairman.
But Kong Rufus, is it mutually exclusive? Meaning,
no.
Can we declare this as a cultural heritage zone and declare it as a protected area?
There will be no conflict, Mr. Chairman. There will be no conflict because this is all for protection. In this case of this bill, it's just really emphasizing really also the cultural heritage of the river, which is part of our early settlement and where the Battle of Macambos Cave was. And so this can stand alone at the same time with other bills on cultural heritage preservation, Mr. Chairman. So there will be no conflict if we pass the other one.
Okay, there'll be no issue if we pass this law and then later on it will be declared as a protected area
Yes,
under the
Mr. Chairman.
NEPA's law. Okay.
Because the DNR is also very much part. In fact, they will be giving
Yeah.
the rules and regulation. So they will also jive it with later on when it becomes also a protected area. The two river basins that we have, Mr. Chairman, which are to be protected because people are also in those areas and they have to be protected against flood, against logging, and all this against illegal mining, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. I can see also in your bill that the DNR will be the one promulgating the IRR. So
Yes.
in fact, they can harmonize the NEPA's law as well as
That's
this
correct.
law. Okay.
That's correct,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Kong Rufus. We also want to hear from the Department of Tourism, represented by Director Shalimar Tamano and Director Elaine Unchuan.
Mr. Chair, sorry.
Any one of you can, alam ko the river traverses two regions. We can hear first from Director Shalimar and then Director Elaine. Director Shalimar? Nandiyan po kayo?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, yes, Senator
I
Binay.
think si Director May na yung may hawak sa with this bill. Kasi si
Okay.
Director Shalimar is for Region 7.
Okay, we recognize Director Elaine Unchuan. Director Elaine, we can paki-unmute po.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and to all the distinguished members of this committee, and of course, our Tourism Chair for the Senate, Senator Binay, and of course, our author, Congressman Rufus Rodriguez. Mr. Chair, we are in full support of this bill. Cagayan de Oro River is one of our very beautiful tourism destinations, and it's also home to our premier rafting destination, our whitewater rafting, and we have been known as the whitewater rafting capital of the Philippines. And the beautiful river of Cagayan de Oro is also the staging point of several of our tourism activities. Even in our Higalay Festival, it is a site of our fluvial parade. And it is a very important part of our region. And we are very much supportive of this bill, and we're very happy that this bill is being proposed by Congressman Rodriguez. We do not have any objections. And again, Mr. Chair, we're in full support of this House bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Director, following up the question of Senator Binay earlier, how do you balance between tourism promotion as well as protection and conservation of the river? I do agree. My view on this type of protection and conservation, there must be some form of revenue generation. No? In fact, all of the bills that I've seen in declaring cultural heritage zones, there's a tourism component. But it's a very delicate balance, sabi nga ni Senator Binay kanina. So how do you foresee that balance?
Actually, Mr. Chair, thank you for that question. Secretary Berna Romulo Puyat, and of course our local government officials and our department has been advocating sustainable tourism, and that's one of the main programs that we are really adopting. And like for example, Mr. Chair, the Cagayan de Oro whitewater rafting activity has always been actually a sustainable tourism activity. And as a matter of fact, some of the rafting events that we had also involved river cleanup and tree planting. And before our rafters would go on the activity, they are given a lecture on sustainability and also environmental conservation. I think it complements, the river activities complement the conservation and our call for sustainable tourism. Apart from that, we have been working very closely also with the LGU and of course the Office of Congressman Rodriguez to really protect the river and also provide livelihood for the stakeholders that are along the river. So with this in mind, Mr. Chair, we have already set conservation efforts also with the DENR in implementing also the easements for our tourism establishments. So it's really, it goes hand in hand. Our development for the Cagayan de Oro River goes hand in hand with our sustainable tourism initiatives, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director. Our last...
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
Mr. Chair?
Senator Binay.
Siguro, Director May, meron na ba kayong carrying capacity?
Yun pa po yung sinastudy nung DNR po together with the LGU dun sa river basin. Wala pa po. Depende po. Yung carrying capacity po for the activities or for the river itself po?
Both. Siguro for both.
Yes, ma'am. Yung sa Cagayan sa rafting po na activity, as of now kasi po usually hindi naman po napupuno. Usually yung mga maximum po is mga 10 rafts at a time. But right now kasi po the river activities has been suspended po pending guidelines. So wala pa po nag-ooperate for river rafting. But for the Cagayan River as a whole, I believe that is being taken up po by the Cagayan de Oro River Basin group po. And I think we are one of the members po, but it's headed by the LGU and DNR.
Chair, maybe can we just request kung may existing report na to submit to the committee? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Pakisubmit na lang sa amin, Director. And I think those are valid questions, no? Because, for example, Boracay, no? We didn't foresee that it will explode and hordes of tourists from different parts of the world will visit Boracay. We never thought of the word carrying capacity. Ngayon lang ho yan na lumalabas in carrying capacity. Eh. And that's why the question of Senator Bina is quite valid. And since we are declaring this as a heritage zone, together protecting it, conserving it, we should put all those regulations, not in the law, no, but moving forward in promoting it as a tourism destination. Who regulates that, Director? Who regulates the carrying capacity, no, for ecotourism?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I think DENR will be the one to study that, and then it's the LGU that actually regulates it. We like for our industry for whitewater rafting, that's the main activity now at the river, and also I think dragon boat. We abide by what the LGU will be setting. Mr. Chair, may I suggest maybe the DNR Region 10 can also comment, and Mr. Engineer Cuenca might be able to comment regarding the carrying capacity studies. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Engineer Cuenca, can please respond to the inquiry on carrying capacity?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Our local city tourism office is the one who regulate the water rafting, and as of now, as mentioned by Director Antoine, there is no activity in the river, and the carrying capacity of the river is, I think, that was hello?
I can hear you po, sir. Engineer.
The carrying capacity was observed by the City Tourism Office, especially the City Tourism Board.
So meron kayong scientifically or scientific-based carrying capacity of the river. You've conducted that.
I have no knowledge, Mr. Chair, on that, but I will include that in our position paper.
Oh, I hope we have, no, because the carrying capacity is not just taken out of thin air. It's a scientific based. Actually, it's an engineering based method. So, pakisubmit na lang ho sa amin yung inyong computation, and this is in line on balancing between tourism and conservation. No? Pakisubmit na lang po sa committee.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Senator Binay.
I think yung DNR has a department that conducts studies on carrying capacity. Nakalimutan ko lang kung anong division yun sa DNR, pero merong existing office na sila yung talagang gumagawa ng pag-aaral pagdating dito sa carrying capacity.
Dito si Regional Director Adorable. Sir, RD, can you respond to that?
Yes, we can provide technical assistance on how to conduct the study of carrying capacity. Like for example, in Cagayan, we have already conducted the carrying capacity of beaches, no? Considering that the NGO of Cagayan requested us to have the study of carrying capacity. So as far as the Cagayan River, again, the Oro River, we don't have any study yet on the carrying capacity.
Thank you, thank you.
Mr. Chair? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, good afternoon. I'd like to
Yes,
speak.
Mr. Mark.
Yes, sir. I'd like to speak just on the issue of carrying capacity. No, in my professional capacity as an urban planner and tourism development specialist, the the carrying capacity of places like Cagayan de Oro really River are really ultimately dictated not just by the natural conditions but also by the infrastructure. No? So yun po yung dapat habulin natin. No? And I think that's where the development plans that would come, development and conservation plans that would come out as a result of this bill, dapat masagot po yon. No? Because of course, if you add a little development, then the carrying capacity of a particular place increases, but also that also affects the rest of the environmental conditions. No? So dapat dun sa development planning na titimpla how much of the area will be developed, under what conditions, and then also how much of the area will be conserved and under what conditions po. So doon po maglalaro yung issue po na to. So it really devolves on the question of site planning. Yun lang po.
Since yung mga activities doon are regulated by the local government should be guided kung ano yung carrying capacity niya para hindi approve ng maraming operator. Because if you don't have that guidance, of course, it's very tempting to just approve anyone who wants to make money out of the river, no, in guise of tourism. So it's important that we generate that carrying capacity. And I totally agree with Senator Binay because that's what we experience in Boracay, no? And now we have a carrying capacity in Boracay, you know? There's a limited number of tourists that are allowed to go in. So in the same manner with the Cagayan de Oro River, Mr. Mark, what's the process of determining the carrying capacity? Should the LGU study that? Is it the DNR? Is it a body that will do that? What is the process?
I think that would really be a result of the research process done by whoever would prepare the plan. In this case, not like sorry, to return, for example, for Boracay, no, the major factor in determining the carrying capacity for Boracay, if I remember correctly, was simply the space allocation of the White Beach, and that would dictate the number of people who can comfortably use the White Beach, no, at any particular point in time. No? In this case, for Cagayan de Oro River, it might be more directed at the moment, no, given the current level of development, would be maybe more about space and time restrictions, no, that how many boats can be deployed at any one time to make sure that all passengers moving down the river are safe. No, there might also be constraints about the amount of space in your staging area. There might also be constraints around parking and accessibility. No? So marami pong factors dapat yung nagtitimpla sa carrying capacity. No? But I think the immediate one for Cagayan de Oro River, primarily for tourism, would be safety. Because ayaw natin yung magbabanggaan yung mga boats, magkakarisk sa mga tao. Okay? And of course, yung impact on the surrounding environment. That, of course, every boat affects the biodiversity of the river, no? So dapat may level din po yun. So there's also a biological study that would be needed.
Should that be conducted by DNR? In your experience?
I think it would ultimately be dictated by kung sino man magiging operator, no? Because whether it's the LGU or a private or a result of a public private partnership or totally contracted out, no? Dapat may magko-conduct talaga ng ECC dyan. No? So I don't know if there's been an ECC because every project, of course, kailangan may ECC, especially in a sensitive area like the Cagayan de Oro River. So that should be an output of the ECC process.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Senator Binay.
I think di ba yung Cagayan de Oro River will cover other LGUs and not just Cagayan de Oro? Tama po ba?
Tama, kasi it will stretch, from what I read is will stretch from Bukidnon, not mistaken, and flow to Cagayan de Oro City and other provinces. No? It's a whole system.
Ilang LGUs kaya to? I don't know, hindi ko alam kung sinong may alam.
Maybe I think si Engineer Cuenca's raising his hands. No?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the River Basin covers 5 municipalities and 2 cities. The municipality of Baongon, Libuna, Antalakag, and Bukidnon, and the city of Cagayan de Oro and Iligan.
Mr. Chair, baka dapat national agency yung mag-conduct ng study because if it covers 5 municipalities and 2 cities, kung isa-isa pa silang gagawa, una-una, it will be costly and baka hindi rin magtugma yung plano ng mga municipalities and cities. So baka nga dapat, it should be a national government agency who would conduct the study.
Well, with the permission of the principal author, we can suggest to include maybe a mechanism where a body will compute the carrying capacity insofar as tourism is concerned and also in line with the protection and conservation so that it will be very clear in the law that this type of measurements will be conducted and this is in line with the protection and conservation. No? Of course, with the permission of the principal author.
Yes, and Mr. Chair, meron ho bang participation yung 5 municipalities and 2 cities when it comes to the conservation and protection of the Cagayan de Oro River? Baka isa din yun sa kailangan
Mr. Chairman.
Dagdag or...
Yes, thank you, Senator Binay and Chairman. Precisely, the DNR, which is a national agency, will be tasked to be able to coordinate with all of the LGUs that will be along the river. So after this may be passed, then certainly the DNR, being the lead agency, will be able to coordinate with them. But as far as this is merely really to be able to make sure that we preserve this as soon as possible, because we destroy it, we destroy the water, the whitewater rafting, and so much other effects of the if there will be no declaration, Mr. Chairman. So this will be subjected to public consultation, definitely, as far as the implementing rules and regulations. But the concept of this bill is there, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, correct. I also see in Section 5 it's actually very strict when it comes to the prohibited acts. Any activity that will pollute, destroy, or otherwise adversely affect the archaeological, historical, cultural, ecological, and economic value of Cagayan de Oro. So, and then there's also a penal provision. No? The Carcar version doesn't have these two provisions, no, that we might lift out and include in the Carcar proposal. But it's quite clear here what are the prohibited acts. All right.
Mr. Chair,
So,
may I say something?
yes, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Just to give you an idea about our river activities, Mr. Chair, because Cagayan de Oro River is really big, no? There are currently 5 operators of whitewater rafting in the city, and we have already proceeded the implementation of the mandatory accreditation. As of now, Mr. Chair, only 1 outfitter is accredited because they were having an issue with insurance, because we were really insisting on the insurance and safety. But we were also trying to mention regarding environmental conservation, because outfitters should also contribute and have activities for environmental conservation. And I believe that when we do have the mandatory accreditation already, we will be able to regulate the outfitters in terms of their actions and their number of people that they will be allowing and the number of boats. So that's really not a lot. But of course, we look forward to the day when this will become again a popular sport, and there might be also overcrowding of the river. So this is a very good initiative determining the carrying capacity, so that we do not become like Boracay with what happened. No, but at the start, at the onset, Mr. Chair, there's not many outfitters, and if they cannot get accreditation for DOT with all the requirements, also including environmental requirements and the insurance, they will not be able to operate. So I think within the DOT, the DNR, and the LGU, we can already immediately impose the rules on the maximum capacity. But as of now, Mr. Chair, lacking the guidelines of operations for whitewater rafting for the minimum health protocols, we have not still advised them to operate as of this time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Director. And in the law, DOT and DNR will come up with the IRR that will also be the basis for governing conservation and preservation. So it's general enough to cover technical issues such as carrying capacity. No, so we can include that in the IRR later on. Okay. So with that, Senator Binay, may I request a motion to approve the said measure?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve declaring Cagayan de Oro River as a cultural heritage zone.
Thank you, Senator Binay. Hearing no objection, we hereby approve at the committee level House Bill number 5643, declaring Cagayan River as a cultural heritage zone. And we will now endorse it to plenary discussions.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Congressman Rufus.
Really, from the city of Cagayan de Oro and the other areas that will be really be positively affected in this bill, I would like to thank the movement, Senator Nancy Binay, for the motion, and of course the honorable chairman, who is really meticulous of even having read my bill more than I have. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. And of course, I thank the officials in the national agencies, and on our regional and the local level. May I thank Regional Director May Onchuan, Director Arle Adorable, and of course from the city government, Engineer Arman Cuenca. Thank you very much for your support of this bill. We hope to work together to be able to protect this for the interests of our people in our city, in our region. So with that, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for approving this bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. Senator. Congressman.
Wala na yun.
Baka magdilang anghel ako.
Dito na tayo
Congressman
sa
Rufus.
Cagayan de Oro, sa Chairman.
Di nyo alam, baka magdilang ang hell ako. Thank you, Congressman Rufus, and I hope hindi lang books about war ang nasa library nyo, kundi books about love. No?
Yeah, meron
Oh,
din. Love is always in the heart, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, and I'll see you soon, Congressman Rufus.
Thank you very much.
Next is we will discuss House Bill number 4952, an act declaring the Waling-Waling orchid as the national orchid of the Philippines. And we will call on the representative of the sponsor. The sponsor texted me that he's having technical problems with his internet in Davao. So we requested if we could recognize Mr. Rex Victor Puentespina. So we recognize Mr. Rex Victor.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, sir. Sir, naka-mute kayo.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now. Pwede na.
Okay. Hi. Good morning, Senators.
Ito lahat.
I am Rex Puentespina. I'm the past
Wala.
president of the Philippine Orchid Society. We would like to thank Congressman Vincent Garcia for refiling this bill. This bill recognizing the Waling-Waling has been filed several times. In fact, it was already approved by the Senate, but never signed by President Aquino, then President Aquino. The Waling-Waling is a very prolific genetic material in the orchid world. It was once endangered, but now enjoyed by orchid enthusiasts around the world. It is an icon. I'm sure Senator Nancy Binay is very familiar with the Waling-Waling, and we are confident she will support for the approval of the bill. For questions, my colleague, Mr. June Golamco, Mr. J.M. Lakadula at the Philippine Orchid Society is also online. And we have also Ms. Olive Puentespina, based in Davao, to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And would like to recognize me, Barnes. Sure.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Senator Nancy.
I think na nabanggit ni Rex na si President Aquino did not sign the bill, but I think it was vetoed by the President. Hindi ba?
I'm not aware if it was vetoed but it never came into a bill.
It was actually vetoed.
It was vetoed.
Yes.
Okay.
It was at that time the bill wanted to declare Waling-Waling as the second national flower. And the history of it was during the 15th Congress when it was approved by the Congress and Senate, and it was vetoed eventually by President Aquino for the sole reason that it might create confusion among our people. So that was the in gist, no? In summary, that is the reason. So we would like to explore that angle, and I would like to discuss that in depth with our experts, starting with Mr. Jeremy Barnes, to enlighten us on this measure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and hello to our other resource persons. Yes, we've been tackling this issue since 2011. When the original bill sought to replace the Sampaguita with the Waling-Waling. And the grounds for that were the Sampaguita is not an endemic species. It originates from India and in many parts between. really something unique to the Philippines, and so on and so forth. In 2011, when asked to comment in the House, we commented that the Sampaguita possesses immense cultural importance, in terms of practices, traditions, poetry, literature, and all kinds of things, especially yung Sampaguita wreaths and all of that. And it ties us culturally with the region to India and other parts. So it's not only in terms of biodiversity that we have to think. So we did advocate. Well, we did acknowledge the importance of the Waling-Waling. The scientific name is Vanda sanderiana, and it was described as a species in 1903, and it's been one of the most famous and most loved orchids, with many hybrids around the world. And it's something which Filipinos should be very proud of, since it originates in Mindanao, in various parts, specifically in the Davao region, but also in other parts. So we actually suggested that it be considered as possibly a second national flower or a national orchid. So we may have been at fault for bringing up that possibility. We did point out that there are other countries that have more than one national flower, such as Indonesia that has 3, and Singapore has a couple. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. But it's also nice to have, I think, a national orchid, because the Philippines is so famous for its orchids. Here at the National Museum, the father of Philippine orchidology was our great director, Eduardo Quisombing. So, and we promote our heritage of orchid species at the Natural History Museum and in our National Herbarium. So we're very much behind the promotion of Waling-Waling. We regret that it was vetoed under the last administration. And we hope that it will be reconsidered if it gets that far again. So it has the full endorsement, the bill as refiled, of the National Museum. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. I just want to ask you, you mentioned earlier that if you put the Waling-Waling in comparison with Sampaguita, Waling-Waling is endemic to the Philippines, and it's considered the queen of all orchids, because apparently a lot of orchids came from that specific species or specific type. And pardon me, I'm not an expert in botany and this type of studies, but do you suggest that we should replace Sampaguita with Waling-Waling? Because Sampaguita is not endemic in our country, and Sampaguita became our national flower during the American regime. No? It was declared by a American governor in 1934. So my point of the matter there is it's also tied up to our colonial past. And if you noticed, some congressmen have been trying to cut our ties with our colonial past. So I'm just thinking out loud, Jeremy, and you suggest as an expert to replace it, because there are also other things that we replaced. No, our national sport, from sepak takraw to arnis. No, it was replaced at one point. So replacing a national symbol is not, it's nothing new. No? We have done that in the past. So do you think it should be replaced? Sampaguita should be replaced with Waling-Waling, because Waling-Waling is endemic and represents our people.
Well, yes, certainly we went over all those considerations. The 1934 proclamation by then Governor General Frank Murphy we researched into that, and that was part of a series of proclamation of things proclaimed as national symbols. It's quite clear that Murphy issued that on the advice of Filipino experts, at the time. And the proclamation, I don't have it, but I quoted it in my 2011 letter. The basis for the proclamation was its popularity, ornamental value, fragrance, and the role it plays in the legends and traditions of the Filipino people. So that was the basis, not because it's endemic, but because of its ubiquity and its cultural value. As the National Museum, we pay heavy attention to those kinds of things. So we're really reluctant on the basis of biological considerations alone to replace a cultural icon. We would rather go for a win-win solution. I don't think this is colonially laden. It just happened to be issued by Murphy, who was very, very popular in his day, very pro-Filipino, I think. I don't know if it has that color of colonialism, but that's for, of course, our policymakers to ponder. So we were going for a win-win. We did note that other countries have more than one national flower. And when there's no real obligation to just have one. So that was our position. Maybe the more the merrier, or we highlight orchids because they are special in Philippine biodiversity. So maybe they do merit highlighting as a family of species within flowering plants in general. So that, yeah, it's an open question, sir.
Thank you, Jeremy. Another symbol that we replace is the national bird, from Maya to
Yes.
the Philippine eagle. So my point there is we have some track record in evolving and changing symbols. I don't have the transcript for this change, but I would assume that as we grow as a nation, we also realize that we have a lot of realization, and those realization is reflective or reflected in those changes. So, but that's why I asked this question, because of course, to remove confusion, as what the veto message said, is to have one. And if you weigh on those two items or those two flowers, seems to me from my reading that Waling-Waling is a heavier candidate because of its because it's endemic, and also it represents a lot of the qualities of our peoples. So, but I know you're trying to win-win solution is my favorite word.
Yes, of
So
course, sir.
that's why I think the author of this bill took your suggestion, and instead of declaring a national flower, he declared a national orchid. In this case. So thank you, Jeremy. I'll go back to you later on, for more discussion. But we want to also hear from NCCA on their comments on this measure.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you very much. I'd like also to comment and thank the author of this House Bill number 4952, Representative Vincent Garcia and Roman Romulo, especially Congressman Vince Garcia. We are in the same district here in the city of Davao, 2nd District. We've had a chat a while ago regarding this matter. Well, Mr. Chair, our position regarding this House Bill 452. I believe I think there is a two attempt of this. That's 2004 and 2013, a different version. As said a while ago by Senator Binay, it was vetoed during the time of the President Aquino. Well, anyway, we from NCCA, we don't have objection in this declaration of the Waling-Waling as a national orchid of the Philippines. However, Mr. Chair, we find it important that this significant of Waling-Waling should be articulated in the bill. I think either in Section 1 or in a separate clause between Section 1 and 2. The present of this suggested, Mr. Chair, which may be amply supplied by the government agencies like DNR or the Orchid Foundation. Mr. Rex Pentespin is a good friend of mine, the president of the Orchid Foundation. Nice seeing you, sir. It's been a long time. For the provision will serve as the basis of both the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR, and the National Historical Commission of the Philippines, or NHCP, our affiliate cultural agency. For explaining, Mr. Chairman, to the public sa ating madla, bakit po deserve we will come up with this plan for the national orchid, and why not the other species of orchid in the Philippines. Dito kasi sa Davao, Mr. Chairman, Davao region, isa yan sa mga highlight namin during August. Malapit na po next month for the Cagayan Festival. I've seated before in the Cagayan Foundation as a vice chair, and again together with a group of Sir Rex Pentespina, ito yung highlight din namin, ito yung sa aming agro fair namin, yung ating mga orchids, especially Waling-Waling. So ang dami kasing species, so and for that I think we are also protecting its significant per se, which be natural or historical or any other aspect to appropriate it. So again, Mr. Chair, on behalf of NCCA, we are supportive of this House Bill, pero sana, Mr. Chair, maklaro lang din natin kasi marami kasing species din. Baka kasi meron din ibang mga declarations about the national orchids. So that's all, Mr. Chair, and good morning. Thank you.
I was going to ask Jeremy this, but I'll start off with NCCA kay ED. ED, a symbol represents our country. If you have a symbol, like last week, a few months ago, we approved Balangay as the national boat because it represents us, as a nation and us as a people. It has qualities that we find in our peoples that is in that national boat. In the same manner, dito sa Waling-Waling, again, it's a symbol, and it will be representative of our nation, representative of our people. What qualities do you see? What qualities of the Filipino people and the Filipino nation does Waling-Waling represent officially? I mean, this should be discussed in depth and thoroughly, because we want to make sure that this specific species, sabi nyo nga kanina marami, but we want to make sure that this specific species is a true representation of the Philippines and its people. So ano yung nakikita nyo yung mga qualities natin na nandito po sa Waling-Waling?
Well, Mr. Chair, first is this Waling-Waling is endemic, no, here in Philippines, especially in island of Mindanao. So isa yun sa mga ano natin, Mr. Chairman. And again, rare din ito talaga masyado, no? Hindi to basta makikita natin, no, na makukuha. Talagang inaingatan ito. And basically, we will raise public consciousness dahil nga rare itong ating waling-waling. And of course, whose effort to really protect and conserve this flower. So, I guess yung akin ito, Mr. Chairman, para lang din sa ating future generations na makikita rin nila, and of course for the protection of this flower. Talagang maganda ito. Ako galing Davao Region, isa to sa mga pinagmamayabang namin. Even every Cagayan, the mother of Senator Binay, always invited to open our flower activity here in Cagayan, sa Davao. So I guess, Mr. Chairman, yung for the protection of this flower and of course for the conservation also. So that is my point of view regarding this waling-waling.
I kagaya ng sinabi ni Jeremy kanina, no, it has to be more than being endemic, no, and we're declaring this as our national orchid, and the mere word national is a trigger point that it represents us as a nation, no. So I just want to have a deeper discussion on what does it represent. Now, what qualities does Waling-Waling have that is a true representation of the Philippines and us as a people, both currently and probably historically, no? Just like the Balangay, there are a lot of historical representation of us as a people, no? Being a maritime power, being a innovative culture. So dito naman sa Waling-Waling, ano yung nakikita niyong na rin-represent niya? Rin-represent niya sa atin bilang bansa at bilang pamayanan. Anong nakikita niyo? Because it
Mr.
has to be
Chairman.
deeper, no? If we declare this as a national flower, it has to be a deeper rationale why we are doing this, and we're doing this by law, no?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Sir, before we recognize you, I would like to hear from EDL, and then later on we recognize you po, Mr. Rex.
Yeah. I guess, Mr. Chairman, can be best represent, of course, for the reasons that you have said of this Philippine biodiversity, no? Dahil siguro, Mr. Chairman, consider as the finest, no, and the most beautiful among all the species ng ating orchids na makikita natin sa Philippines. Kaya sabi ko, medyo rare talaga ito. And for me, the most beautiful species of orchids. So maybe, Mr. Chair, to add on this, maybe you could also recognize Mr. Rex Pentespina to add more about the details about the Waling-Waling also. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, we recognize Mr. Rex.
Mr. Chairman, can I request that my colleagues at the Philippine Orchid Society be recognized? They are experts in the Waling-Waling or orchid species, and will enlighten you on the Waling-Waling. Mr. Jun Gulamco is online.
Jun Golanco. Okay, yeah, we will recognize Mr. Andres Golanco. Ganito, hindi ko nabasa. Mr. Golanco.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning,
Nasa akin. Yes.
Mr. Chair, and good morning to everybody. Tungkol sa qualities ng waling-waling, it represents the Filipinos very significantly because yung qualities na nakikita sa Waling-Waling, mas maganda makita natin sa picture. I sent some photographs earlier. Maganda sana kung ma-post sa public at para makita kung ano yung Waling-Waling.
Sir, baka meron kayo dyan. You can share screen.
May pinadala namin kanina. Wala, hindi na. Can we, yeah.
Kayo, you can share your screen.
Yes. Okay. Ang Waling-Waling, aside from being most attractive, makikita ito sa mga flowers pag na-view natin. Can you see the pictures?
Wala po. We cannot see anything. Share screen po. Share screen.
Okay. Yan po?
Yan. You can see it.
Yes. Yeah.
Ganda
Yung iba rin, yes. That is the albino, and this one is was presented last year during the Philippine Orchid Society show, where the Waling-Waling were in full bloom. This is the albino form of the Waling-Waling. As you can see, medyo spectacular yung kanyang pagflower. The flowers are held up high, which also represents the Filipinos as being being a Filipino. Yung flowers kasi niya, maganda yung bearing eh. Can you show the other one? Yung tatlong flowers. Yan. Okay. This one won the Best in Show in the Philippine Orchid Society 2018 show. As you can see, marami yung flowers. And the flowers are quite big, around 3 to 4 inches, and held up high. So very proud. And it represents the Filipinos quite well with this orchid to be considered as the national orchid, no? And it has the finest qualities for best color, best form, and the Filipinos are always outstanding in all their achievements. Meron tayong mga magagaling na singers, may magagaling tayong mga scientists, may magagaling tayo sa sports, and nangingibabaw. And you can see the flowers are held up high and very regal and very proud. So these are some of the qualities you can see sa flower ng Waling-Waling representing Filipinos. So this is just an example.
So parang pang Miss Universe, sir.
Yes.
Kaya tayo nananalo sa Miss Universe. Kaya tayo nananalo sa Miss Universe.
In fact, ang Waling-Waling is one of the most outstanding pagdating sa breeding ng orchids. So napakaraming hybrids at mga anak na ito. And in fact, even just Waling-Waling alone, ngayon nakikita na siya sa maramihang orchid collection kasi maraming mga interested na growers mag-alaga ng Waling-Waling. And in fact, mas maganda lahat tayo mag-alaga nito because it shows our qualities eh. Being proud and very showy. Talagang mahusay na mahusay sa breeding pa ito. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Gulanco. I would like to go back again to Jeremy, no? Jeremy, again, the same question. I think you pointed out earlier that it has to be beyond being endemic, because it's a symbol, no? It's a national symbol. So what do you see in Waling-Waling that represents or truly represents our country and the peoples?
Just to clarify, Senator, I didn't actually say it has to be beyond concerns about uniqueness and endemicism. This is just vis-a-vis the Sampaguita, which has deep cultural attributes. And I'm just putting all of that information out there. None of this is my personal opinion. It's just that if we replace the Sampaguita, we should know what we're losing, but de-emphasize, taking away from this symbol. As to Waling-Waling, yes, certainly it is of immense value as a flower. It is, I'll use the word undeniably again, the queen of Philippine orchids. It's extremely popular and well loved among collectors and orchid people worldwide. The beauty is quite apparent. It lends itself very well to hybridization. Maybe that's a Filipino quality, how adaptable we are worldwide. It is delicate and rare, and endangered in nature. But under cultivation, it flourishes and adapts quite well. Maybe we can see something of our national traits in that. We are vulnerable, but we're under
Adaptable.
certain conditions. We thrive everywhere, and mix very well. And yeah, the beauty, the color is outstanding. So that's maybe aspirational. The color of us as Filipinos as a people, we're so colorful. The beauty inherent in Filipino identity. That's all I could probably say. It's certainly something to be proud of, whether it's a national flower, a national orchid, or neither, but held up as a great species from the Philippines.
To share?
Thank you, Senator
Mr. Chair?
Binay. Yes.
Well, diba technically, this bill will already remove the conflict with Sampaguita. Tama po ba? Tama ba, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Because
that is the win-win solution of Mr. Jeremy to remove that perceived confusion, is to declare Waling-Waling as the national orchid.
Yeah. Siguro pwede tanong ko lang either kay Mr. June Colamco or kay Rex. Siguro isi-share ko lang in another lifetime. Sumasali din ako sa mga show. In fact, I think mga few times nanalo yung exhibit namin ni Pipito sa mga shows ng either Philippine Orchid Society or the Horticulture Society. Aside from Waling-Waling, meron pa bang endemic orchid sa Philippines?
Marami.
Siguro, Jeremy, like what?
Oh gosh.
I mean, yung kumbaga close competitor of Waling-Waling. I agree. I fully support this bill declaring Waling-Waling as a national orchid. But syempre, kailangan i-compare din natin siya dun sa closest competitor niya.
Mr. Golamco or Mr. Rex or anyone who can answer the query?
Kasi hindi ako sure, ang sanggumay bang orchid?
Mr. Rex, go ahead po.
Yes. Can I add on?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Gulamco.
Thank you. So far, as endemic species, yung waling-waling ang talagang pinaka-spectacular at saka pinaka-showiest. The other orchids that would come to mind is Vanda luzonica, but it's basically just popular in Luzon, not so much worldwide. Sangumay is not endemic. It is an indigenous species. It is also found in other Asian countries. So, ang mas rightful would be the Vanda sanderiana, which is an endemic species in Mindanao and now shared all over the Philippines and also around the world because of the mass production done by the fellow orchidists in Mindanao. And then now marami na siya. Hindi na siya nakakatakot na mauubusan sa forest. So I believe na walang malapit na competition amongst the other orchids species na very popular and equally very showy. And then adaptable pa. Thank you. Nawala.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Senator.
Kaya hindi kasi diba at one point, naging problema itong, naging ano siya, endangered species itong waling-waling eh. At the moment ba, meron pa rin makikita in the wild? Kasi alam ko for a time halos sa lab na lang yung mga napoproduce na waling-waling eh.
Nancy, Senator Nancy, you're on mute.
Na-propagate naman natin to ulit dun sa kanilang natural habitat? Like what we did, like yung ginagawa nila Rex sa Philippine Eagle. Meron bang ganong programa for waling-waling?
Breeding-wise, marami na sa laboratories. In fact, in Mindanao, I think Malagos Garden and other orchid growers in Mindanao have included waling-waling in their mass production. So medyo marami na siya, by the millions, in fact. And even in Luzon, other growers have also started producing waling-waling and they have them in the millions also. So medyo marami na siya right now. But you can also find the species in the habitat, but we are not free to give you the exact location para at least ma-ensure natin yung safety na hindi makukuha itong mga remaining plants. Medyo marami pa rin nasa forest. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ako, I'm ready to move.
Sandali, Nancy, hindi pa tayo. We're not, gusto mo, bigyan ka ni Pepito ng waling-waling
Hindi,
kasi.
Mr. Chair, papagalitan ako ng mami ko, no?
We want to hear also from NHCP, Mr. Alvin Alcid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, good morning, everyone. Siguro just to add to the discussion, Mr. Chair, with regards dun kanina kasi yung sampagita, your query kanina yung kung pwedeng papalitan, no? Let me read, sir, our position on this matter, sir, no? In the case of House Bill number 4952, we have originally expressed reservations on account of the current national flower, the sampagita, as mentioned, was declared by Governor General Frank Murphy, because it has already gained significant cultural value within the national consciousness on account of its use in garlands, used to honor visitors, graduates, academic and athletic achievers, other esteemed persons, as well as icons of Catholic saints and the departed. But now, nag-iba na nga po yung title niya. Before kasi when it was filed at the House, ayun siya, national flower, no? Other national flowers. So now it's titled as National Orchid. So with this change po, the NHCP does not object to the bill anymore. Kami po yung before in 2011 also, we objected to that bill. Pero ngayon po, iba na kasi yung title niya, National Orchid. So, we do not object to the bill anymore, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, but you don't see this as a circumvention?
Hindi naman po, Mr. Chair.
Director?
Yun nga
Hindi,
po
hindi.
eh.
I
Hindi
just
naman-
want to I just want to play devil's advocate. You see this as a circumvention. Eh pareho from a layman point of view, I'm not an expert. Si Nancy is a expert in this, but pareho naman bulaklak yan eh.
Yun nga po.
From my point of view, it's the same. No?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. Opo. Yun po, yun nga rin yung nabanggit kanina. We were together with Director Barnes during that hearing, and that's the win-win solution that came out during that hearing at the House. Let me go to another idea, sir, no? Kasi yun yung issue with regards to laws, no? In general po, no, when we pass laws declaring this and that as a national this and that, ito po siguro yung nagiging let me cite an example. We all know that we recognize Jose Rizal as our national hero, but do you know that wala naman pong batas declaring him as a national hero? Why do we then consider him as a national hero? Because collectively, no, yung national consciousness natin, tinanggap natin siya. So, parang yun po yung medyo usually nagiging discussion within the NHCP. This is not the first time that we have this, because in the past, yun nga, you mentioned we have the national sport, the national bird, the national flower, national tree. So yun yung argument niyo, Mr. Chair, kanina what does it represent the Filipino? Yun yung talagang medyo mahirap then on our end, no, to look into. Kasi minsan yung tao na rin, ang Pilipino na rin nagsasabi, this is for us, this is the national, no? Yun po yung medyo, again, yun po, Mr. Chair. I hope you understand what I'm saying, Mr. Chair.
Honestly, I don't understand. Pero,
sorry.
Kasi parang paikot-ikot eh. But you know what I'm driving at is, I don't want to endorse this bill because we circumvented the veto by declaring a national orchid. I want it to endorse this bill on the basis that it represents the Filipino people and the country. That's why it has to be a deeper discussion than just changing it to a national orchid. That's why I'm asking the experts, what does it represent, or how does it represent the country or the people? Because we don't want to pass a law. This is a law. And then when they looked at the transcript, sinabi nila, pumasa itong batas kasi pinalitan to national orchid. Hindi naman maganda doon, no? We want to make sure that this law surpasses the symbolism or the criteria for symbolisms. No, that's why I want to discuss that with the experts. In the explanatory note of the author, he wrote there, it symbolizes the high aspirations of the Filipino, resiliency, being proud as a Filipino, independence, and being peaceful. So these are all the symbolisms that the principal author mentioned in his explanatory note, which was vetoed eventually. But I want to know from the experts, from your point of view and from your research, it has to be a deeper research, no? Because, like I said, we cannot pass a law because we circumvented it and renamed it to a national orchid. We passed a law because it truly represents us as a people. And this is a national symbol. More than the discussion of a national orchid, it's a symbol. No? So that's what I wanted to discuss with the experts.
May I add on?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, yes, Mr. Golanco.
Yeah. When it comes to the important reason, when you ask a lot of Filipinos, or almost every Filipino, about kung ano yung pinakamaganda or anong orchids yung alam ninyo, ang sasagutin nila ay waling-waling. So recognize talaga itong waling-waling as an orchid, and it is basically a Philippine orchid. So alam nila Filipino orchid ito, galing sa Philippines. So doon pa lang nare-recognize na ng maraming Filipinos na pagdating sa magandang orchids, waling-waling ang sagot. In fact, meron ng song, a kanta na composed way back, I think even before I was born, meron ng tungkol sa waling-waling. So it's a very popular orchid all over the Philippines and now even worldwide. And it's being recognized also from the orchids from abroad as a Filipino orchid. So recognized talaga siyang Filipino siya.
Yes, ED Al.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I will speak not for NCCA, but I will speak, Mr. President, now as part of the Cagayan sa Davao Festival Executive Committee, member for 9 years. Ito po yung talagang dinadayo, Mr. Chair, dito sa Davao City during Cagayan, and one of our tourism arrival during Cagayan, coming from Manila, Cebu, or yung mga from outside the Philippines. Ano po yung pinupuntahan nila sa Davao, sa Cagayan? Ito po yun, Mr. Chairman, di waling-waling or yung ating mga orchids. So hindi po pwede mawala namin during the Cagayan Festival. Ito po yung agro-industrial fair. Kasi po isa din ito sa attraction, isa rin itong pinupuntahan ng mga Filipino from different places to see the beauty. And of course, gusto din nilang magkaroon ng waling-waling. For me, Mr. Chair, sabi nga ni Mr. Ulamco, lahat ng Filipino, lalo na po yung mahilig sa bulaklak, talagang gustong-gustong makita yung waling-waling. And we are very happy here in Davao Region na marami dito rin. And during the Kadayawan, yan din yung aming talagang inaayos at ginagawa ng way, especially now with Mayor Sara, na we consider as one of the pillar or the four icons yung ating waling-waling here in Davao City. So I do agree, Mr. Chair, that this flower, this waling-waling, is recognized by Filipinos in Luzon, Visayas. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Senator Nancy.
Just to add, na hindi lang naman sa Kadayawan nakikita yung waling-waling. In fact, yung Philippine Orchid Society, yung isang mid-year show nyo, tinataon nyo talaga dun sa panahon kung saan nag-bloom yung waling-waling eh. So, hindi lang ito sa Davao nakikita. In fact, yung mga orchid enthusiasts dito sa Manila, inaabangan na yan tuwing magkakaroon ng show yung Philippine Orchid Society. I don't know if it's end of August or first week of September. Usually, yung mid-year exhibit ng Philippine Orchid Society.
Thank you, Senator Nancy. And okay.
Just to add,
yes, Nancy.
I guess siguro kailangan din natin, we need to own this waling-waling kasi baka unahan na naman tayo ng mga ASEAN neighbors natin. Kumbaga, sa kanila mapupunta yung claim to fame when it comes to this orchid dahil way back when I was still active, yun yung nagiging problema. Lagi tayong nauunahan ng ating mga neighbors here in Southeast Asia, lalong-lalo na ng Bangkok. Kaya I think isa din dun sa kahalagahan para pag na-declare ito as a national orchid, we can use resources to propagate and make and own this orchid as part of the Philippines. Parang ganun yung magiging consequence of declaring it as a national orchid.
Thank you, Senator Nancy. Actually, I agree with the suggestion of Executive Director Al Alejandre that there should be a much more robust discussion in the bill. No, the bill is only one page, and it only declares it as a national orchid. But I do want to see a much robust discussion on why it should be declared as a national orchid. Sabi nga kanina, tinanungan ni Nancy, ilan ang orchids in the Philippines. And if I'm not mistaken, no, this is based on research, there are about 3,500 flower species. Tama po ba, Mr. Golanco? So, na-endemic sa atin. So, 1 out of the 3,500 is quite a very distinct selection. So talagang we need to highlight why, no? Out of the 3,500, siya yung ating national flower. So and I want to embed that in the law so that those who will read the law will see why, no? Hindi lang nakita nila ay sinircumvent natin to dahil na-veto ito eh. Hindi maganda yung ganun eh. We need to have a much more robust discussion in the law as well as in our conversations now. But I do appreciate the explanatory note of the author. Sinabi nga niya doon, high aspirations of the Filipino people, resiliency of the Filipino people, proud. No, kanina napakita nga ni Mr. Golanco, independence and peacefulness, no, because it can coexist with any other species. So, and then Jeremy also add adaptability and colorfulness. No?
And I've just been reading here, Senator, and the sweet fragrance. So mabango siya talaga. So as a people, we can also claim that attribute.
Mabango ba tayo?
Absolutely.
Yes, of course.
So with that, would like to request, no, and like to request NCCA and the three agencies, but primarily NCCA, National Museum and National Historical Commission, a heavy research and deliberation on the representation of this flower as to how it represents us as a Filipino people. Of course, we have discussed it here in a very broad manner, but I want to formalize it through a position paper from NCCA. And then if National Museum and National Historical Commission can also contribute through their own position paper, mas maganda ho yun. And the other resource persons. Like I said, I'm in favor of this because nga it's endemic and it's beautiful and it represents some qualities of our nation, but we need to formalize that. And I will take your advice, ED Alejandre, that we will embed that in the law, no? Para mas robust naman. Pag binasa mo yung batas, makikita mo kaagad kung bakit, no? So we will approve this bill subject to the submissions from NCCA, National Historical Commission, and National Museum, so that we will embed your comments into the bill. So with that, I will request Senator Nancy Binay to make that motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve as declaring Waling-Waling as the national orchid of the Philippines prior to the submission of position papers from our resource persons.
Thank you, Senator Binay. So the committee will approve the endorsement of House Bill number House Bill number 4952, an act declaring Waling-Waling Orchid as the national orchid of the Philippines, subject to the formal submission of the National Historical Commission, NCCA, and the National Museum that will have the contents on their position paper on why Waling-Waling is a true symbol and representation of the Filipino people and our nation. And also the other resource persons, feel free to submit to us your position papers po. So with that, I thank everyone. Yes, Nancy, Senator Nancy.
Kasi I think malapit na magbulaklak yung mga waling, tama po ba, Rex?
Yes, August.
Baka it's best if you can send a sample kay Chair para makita niya talaga kung gaano kaganda yung waling-waling.
Maganda naman, Nancy.
Yes, it's now it's flowering season now, and timely. We'll send the flowering waling-waling to the chairman for his appreciation.
Bibigay ko sa girlfriend ko para hindi na ako iiwan.
Oh, okay.
And I think it is also timely. Maybe this is a blessing in disguise because, of course, the bill stands a better chance of getting approved because our president is from Mindanao, no? And I think no man will appreciate it more than our president. No, he's quite familiar with this species. So I think we have a very good chance of getting this approved at this time. So blessing in disguise na rin po.
Yeah, we have 2 years to do it, sir.
Oo nga. So once again, thank you very much for your time to our cultural and heritage agencies. Maraming salamat po for your time. Of course, to Senator Nancy, who stayed with us until the end. Maraming salamat po for your participation. So this meeting is hereby adjourned.
Thank you.